We are live. Hello and welcome, everybody. Typically, we do every single Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, but right now I'm in India. Henry, I'm in India right now. So
Okay.
that's why we're doing it 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Today, we have Henry. He's an immigration lawyer from Manifesting. I'll let him introduce in a minute. But, Henry, apparently, there's big good news for Indians. At least that's what I've been hearing on Twitter and on Reddit. That there's a big movement in Visa Bulletin. Maybe can you start there, or I mean, of course, introduce, and then we start with that topic, like what is going on, and then we can even look at the Visa Bulletin.
All right, sounds good. Hi, everybody. My name is Henry. I'm a senior counsel at Manifest Law. I have a background in a wide variety of different work visas and employment-based green cards. So I've worked a lot on EB1As, EB2 NIWs, O1s, H1Bs, E2s, you name it. Um, I've kind of touched a little bit of everything. So I have a broad sense of different case types and options for people. The good news is that the April visa bulletin came out just yesterday, and there's been another big jump. So anybody who is from India is probably watching the priority dates closely and trying to figure out when they get to the finish line. And there seems to be a lot of movement, which is surprising because there's been several big jumps in the last 6 months, and of course for immigrants that's fantastic news.
Yeah. Should we look at Visa Bulletin, and maybe you can kind of walk through what exactly has happened and how do you like look, what do you look at even in future for people, so that way they can see it.
Absolutely. If you don't mind sharing your screen, Yudi, and then we can take a look.
All right, here we go. All right, I am on the Visa Bulletin website. So let me know, where do you want me to go, Henry?
Okay, keep scrolling down. I think most of the people are going to be interested in the employment based, so we can skip past the F1s here. And here we go, employment based preference categories. So there's two different sections that we're always looking at. There's the final action dates, and then there's another section for dates of filing.
Hmm.
The difference there is that the final action date is the priority date where when is the government legally authorized to give you the green card. So if you're not yet current on the FAD, you might have a pending adjustment already, but they just can't approve it yet because this is the actual queue for when they can issue the green card. But the next section, the dates of filing, is what they use for determining when you can start the process and submit the adjustment of status, because
Hmm.
they know it's going to take time between when you file and when how they do all of their processing and when they are actually ready to approve it. So they allow people to file earlier and get the benefits of legal status and having an EAD card for work for authorization to work while they are processing this. And
Gotcha.
if we look at the um, uh, dates on this month's visa bulletin. There's separate sections for the bigger countries like India and China. That's because there's a per country limit as well as the global limit. So because China and India have a lot of immigration to the United States, they usually reach their per country limit faster than anybody else. And India currently is on first preference. That means for the EB1 cases is in April 2023, and that's a movement from last month when it was in March.
Gotcha. And this means anybody who has filed 1st April is basically essentially now eligible for green card.
Correct. So if anybody filed their case and with a priority date of April 1st or earlier, then they are now considered current, and that means that the government is authorized to give them the green card. So if you have a pending adjustment of status case that was, let's say, March 15, last month you were not current, this month you are current. So in the next few months, you should anticipate the update coming from USCIS that the case has been approved and you can now get your green card.
Perfect. Okay. And this is EB1, this is EB2. So what was the biggest moment that we saw in April?
The biggest movement for April, let's see, we have 1 month on the EB1 for final action dates, And for EB2, there was a big jump. It's more than 300 days. So if we look at India EB2, it's now in 15th of July 2014. Last month it was in September of 2013. So there's almost 1 year, more than 10 months of a jump. So anybody with a pending or with a I-140 approval from 2013, 2014, those are the people that are going to be looking at this closely to see if they now became current and they are eligible. So if you have an old I-140 EB2 and maybe you have a newer, whether it's new perm from a different employer or whether it's an EB2 NIW that you self-filed recently, those are the people that are likely going to be current now and can move forward with adjustment of status and getting the green card.
Gotcha. Okay. Just for context, I'm sharing this is March visa bulletin, right? So I'm sharing that just to show EB2 right there was 15th September 2013, and then of course now we are seeing 15 July 2014.
Correct.
Right.
And then if we're looking at the dates of filing chart, there was a big jump for India in the EB1 category. So, or
Yeah.
no, not on the EB1, but on the EB2 we move forward. But for let's see, dates of filing, no movement on here. We're still at December 2023. For EB2. A little bit of a movement, but not much.
EB3, I think there's a movement.
And EB3, okay, January 15, 2015.
Yeah, so this is for March visa bulletin. This is dates for filing, and then you can see EB3 was 15th August 2014, and then in today, like April's bulletin, it's 15th Jan 2015. So it's
Okay, nice. Yeah, so there's a big jump there as well, because there are a lot of people, for example, in the tech world that got EB3 approvals. They don't have EB2 approvals because it really depends on what type of job it was. So there's a lot of people in the EB3 pipeline as well, and that means many of them now are going to be closer to being able to file.
amazing. Cool. All right. I will move on to Q&A. Anything else happening in the world of immigration, Henry? Any other updates?
I don't have any sort of breaking news at this point. For this week, I think the visa bulletin was definitely the biggest news.
Yeah.
I guess the question that some people might have is what is the reason behind these jumps? Because for several months I've been anticipating things to slow down again, and now there's actually movement. So there's a number of different factors that could be impacting it. One is maybe there's the overflow from last year's family-based cases that is got it coming in. That unused family-based visa numbers that are now coming in for the EB2 EBs, and that's speeding things up. And the second thing that I've been thinking about is possibly the pause for 75 countries consular immigrant visa issuance, that the people at the Department of State who are projecting future demand for visa numbers might already be ahead of time giving more room for filing dates for EBs, because they know that for next year there's going to be a lot more family-based numbers that are going to be left over and spilling over for next fiscal year in the EB.
That's an interesting point. I'm sure people are gonna ask, what does this mean for the coming months? So before I ask you this, I just want to let everyone know, if you are interested in having your profile evaluated, if you for talent visa, or if you need consultation from team like Manifest team, I'm gonna post my link in the chat so you can schedule any call that you have. Plus they do free profile evaluation, especially for talent visas. If you feel like, okay, I might be ready for O1 or EB1, and you get 30-minute call with someone like Henry. Maybe Henry, do you do those consultations?
I don't do many of them, but if you specifically ask for me, I'm happy to jump in and give you my availability. Just full disclosure, there might be somebody else available a little bit sooner because they're keeping me busy with these webinars and other things that I'm doing. But if you want to talk to me, absolutely happy to make the time for that and make it happen.
Amazing. Again, I posted the link. You can feel free to take a look at it. But Henry, we'll move on to Q&A. We have 50 plus questions, so let's start with these questions. What is the future of EB1 India filing date by the year end? As EB2 India filing date recently moved by almost 9 months, is EB1 India expected to be current soon?
Wow. I have to be honest, I have been wrong several months in a row because as soon as there was a previous big jump, I anticipated that now it's going to slow down. And then there was another big jump. And then again, I'm anticipating things to kind of slow down. I don't see them having so many visa numbers available that every month there's going to be this big movement for EB1 India. So if I'm looking at how many cases we are filing every month, even just at manifest for EB1. I don't think that EB1 India is expected to be current anytime soon. And if we look at publicly available USCIS data, which you can find if you Google USCIS citizenship and immigration data, there are reports available on USCIS website. Every year they are receiving more EB1 cases than they did in the previous year. So that means I don't think the bottleneck is disappearing. There's a brief relief, and then after that, there's going to be a new flood of cases coming in. So
Mhm.
unfortunately, I don't think EB1 India is going to become current.
Hmm.
I
Do
think
you
there
think,
might be a little bit more movement this year, and then we're going to be seeing maybe another big jump early next year when we get the overflow from family cases again.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. I'm on STEM OPT till February 2027. Switching jobs April 2nd. Can I report both jobs in 10 days? If no, I-983 signature. Can I submit with proof? Any gap risk? Also, H1B stamping slots December 2026 available. Okay, there's too many questions.
Okay. First off, I want to say that the best person to talk about specific details of your OPT jobs is going to be the DSO, the designated school official that is managing your CVIS record, because they need to know what you're doing so that they can stay compliant with the CVIS record management, and they have to always know whether you're switching jobs, having multiple jobs, and so on. I do relatively few OPT cases, so I don't have that much expertise on that. I would say if the DSO says that you're good to go, then yes, but I'm especially worried about, not having a signature on the form yet. So that's something that you definitely want to check with the DSO. And I wouldn't start work unless the DSO has already told you that this is okay.
Hmm.
For gap risk, as far as I know, if you're already on OPT, I think there's that maximum limit of days that you can be unemployed. So if you can continue working on your current job as long as possible before you make the switch, but if you do have a gap between the jobs, you want to make sure that you don't go over that limit that's set in the OPT rules. I,
Yeah.
was it 60 or 90 days? Again, I'm not OPT expert, so I
For the
don't want
first year,
to
it's 60 days unemployed.
so you just got to count your days, and see during all of your STEM OPT period here, have you had any other time where you're not working when you're supposed to be working, and that's the number that you want to look at and make sure you don't go over. For H1B stamping, I mean, that's the big mystery for everybody. I don't think there's going to be any new availability unless the Department of State announces that they're either hiring more um, for the consulates in India, or if they just get way more efficient with their social media review, because that's the bottleneck that's causing them to take more time on the cases. Other than that, where are those slots going to come from?
Right. Yep. Okay, I have a STEM OPT biometric appointment scheduled on March 30th. Around the same time, H1B results are expected. If my H1B is selected, will I qualify for CAP?
Okay. So the way the H1B lottery works is that usually by the first week of April, we start getting the results to see if you got selected. Then there is the next deadline that the company has to actually file an H1B petition, and the deadline for that is June 30th. So before June 30th, I'm assuming you're going to have a result on your OPT already. That
Hmm.
you do your biometrics and then you get a result on that. So you have to have the OPT and then you file the H1B and then you qualify for the cap. So if you haven't paid for premium, I would really consider upgrading your STEM OPT to premium processing, just to make sure that by June 30th you have an approval on that, and then filing for the H1B, and then you will have the cap.
If my STEM OPT is still pending, will I receive 180-day automatic work authorization extension?
Yes, STEM OPT, assuming you are going from regular OPT to STEM OPT, there is
Yeah,
an automatic extension there. There was a recent rule change with USCIS where they eliminated the automatic EAD extensions from a lot of different categories, such as H4
yeah,
EADs.
yeah,
But
yeah,
for
yeah.
STEM OPT, that still applies because it was a different section of the law where that extension is written in. So STEM OPT, as long as you file it before your regular OPT expires, you qualify for an automatic extension.
Hmm. Okay. Under 8 CFR, some rule, does 3 semesters of full time H4 enrollment count toward the 1 year OPT requirement if I switch to F1 for my final 3 credits? If not, what is the minimum time credits? Okay, I think maybe this is, I'm
Whoa,
not sure.
yeah, that's a bit of a complicated mess. If I'm understanding this correctly, you have you've been enrolled in H as an H4, and then you are looking at OPT. Honestly, this seems like a mess. I don't see how you can switch to F1, only do 3 credits as an F1 student, and then qualify for OPT. Because the general requirement for F1 is that you have to be enrolled in a full-time program, and that means I am assuming that you would have to finish a whole semester where you take a full-time caseload, right? So if you're leaving it to only 3 credits, that doesn't seem to me like anything near a full-time program. So I would want to talk to the International Student Office and the DSO about this, but I'm leaning towards you should have at least 1 semester of full-time F1 study if you want to get the OPT on that.
Hmm. I received an RFE on STEM OPT due to a mismatch between employer name and e-verify number, parent entity. I have since switched to a new company and updated records. How should I respond? Any denial risk? Ooh,
Okay. I've never had a situation where somebody switches jobs while they are
RFE.
in the middle of an RFE. But I would say, you want to include evidence of your new employment in the RFE response. You still want to explain to them what is the reason for the mismatch, showing that uh, the e-verify number is the parent company's one, and I don't know how they do their payroll. So this is a big mess, right? Like some companies have each subsidiary running their own payroll. Some
Right.
companies have your employer on paper being one company, but it's actually payroll coming from the parent. This is very, very nuanced and like case specific. So all of those details, I would say, should be included in the RFE response, number one, to explain to them what was the reason for the mismatch. And then secondly, I would say, however, also there's been a job change and that's not really even relevant. You still want to explain what happened, but then say that also now you have a different employer and then make sure that that employer is an E-Verify employer that has all of those things. And now that you already seen what's the mismatch, you want to make sure that the new employer has an E-Verify system that they are, competent using, and they know how to do it, so that you don't have that same problem happening with the second employer again, because that would definitely mean you have a high risk of denial.
Okay. Are we allowed to work for 20 and 20 hours with two employers in our OPT period?
I believe so, yes. There's multiple employers that are allowed during OPT.
Yeah. If I don't get picked in the H1B lottery this year, is it a good strategy to switch to a cap exempt employer like a university and then later move back to corporate?
Absolutely. I mean, for most people, the question is, can they find a cap-exempt employer who actually wants to sponsor them? But if that is an opportunity for you, then I would absolutely say go for it, because it's better to have options and to have a work visa and status, rather than running out of time and not knowing what to do. Anything you can do to remain in the United States is positive, because if you go outside of the US, if there then in the future is an available H1B, it triggers the 100K fee. So that means whether you get a cap exempt H1B, whether you qualify for an O1, whether there's any other things like go to another F1 program, if you go for a master's or something like that, to stay in the United States. And the more time you can be here in valid status, the more chances there are that you're eventually going to win the H1B or find a different route.
Participate in the lottery if they want to move completely to corporate, or they can do concurrent if they move to like part-time cap exempt and then maybe do a concurrent H1B. Is that right?
Correct. So once you have a cap exempt H1B, you still have to win the lottery in order to go back to a cap subject employer. So you can go work for a university, but if then Amazon wants to hire you, you have to win the lottery in order to get the H1B for Amazon. However, there is that loophole of concurrent H1B, which effectively means having two H1Bs at the same time. So if you have part-time cap exempt role at a university and then a full-time job for a for-profit, big tech company, those can exist at the same time. But then you need to keep that cap exempt H1B always. The moment you drop the cap exempt H1B, the other one also becomes invalid unless you win the lottery. So it's a sort of 4D chess game when you're dealing with concurrent H1Bs on how to make sure everything is valid and in compliance.
I have a couple of questions to follow up. So one, is there a limit for like cap exam? Let's say the university is okay with me working maybe 5 hours a week. So is that okay that I'm only doing 5 hours and then 40 hours with Amazon in your example?
Um, that used to be okay. If I'm remembering correctly, there was a change in that rule recently when they did the H1B modernization. They changed some of the terms. So I'm not actually sure if that's. Oh, I think that meant if there's a combination of things. If somebody works in a role where there is multiple different job duties and things like that, then at least half of that needs to be for the cap exempt institution. But in general, yes, it should be allowed that you could work, let's say a 10-hour work week for the university, and then do the full-time job for Amazon or any other like big tech company that wants to hire you.
Got it. Okay. All right. My friend's employer submitted wrong last name for H1B lottery and paid the fee. They say they can't delete the entry even after withdrawing it, so it still shows as submitted.
Hmm. That seems to be a technical issue with maybe the USCIS website, and there's a button somewhere on the portal where they can submit a feedback for technical problems. I would definitely do that before the H1B registration closes, so that the tech team can jump on it and hopefully withdraw. Because I know from my side, I've done the H1B registrations, there is a button for withdrawing. So if you click on that and it doesn't do anything, that seems to be an issue with the H1B portal. So I would contact the tech support at USCIS to make sure that it gets withdrawn, and then at the same time, I would start working on a new entry for the registration form with the correct name. But yeah, this seems to be a technical issue that the USCIS tech support can help with.
Okay. Do you see any current approvals for H1B to B2 pending to H1B under premium processing?
I haven't done anything like this recently. I actually am going to submit one this week, and I'm going to see how that works out, where there's a pending B2. The last one I saw was a couple of months ago, so I honestly don't know what is the immediate sort of real-time situation on the ground for these. If you ask me again in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to tell you if it worked out or not. There is definitely a risk there, though, and what you want to look at is what kind of documents did you submit for your B2. If you did a change of status from H1B to B2, a lot of people submit personal statements where they're talking about planning to go back home, or maybe they even show a ticket booked for a flight leaving the United States, things like that. So when you now go and do a COS back to H1B, you want to make sure that the filing is consistent with what you previously submitted, so you don't get stuck in USCIS saying that you lied about something. You want to have a reasonable and sort of realistic explanation to what was your change in plans. If you said, I'm going to go travel around the US and go to Yellowstone and visit all the national parks, and then 2 weeks later you're like, I want to change to H1B, explain what happened there. Like, were you already applying for that job earlier, or did you just suddenly get a recruiter reaching out to you? If it was the recruiter option, include even a screenshot of just the recruiter reaching out to you on LinkedIn or something, because you can say, show that in the H1B filing that, no, I really had that intent of leaving, but here is an opportunity I couldn't pass on.
Okay. I am myself working with 2 employers on OPT right now. Cumulative should be 20 hours minimum. You can also work less than. Oh, I guess they are just responding to.
Okay, yeah, that's somebody's comment for the previous question. Thanks for sharing. That's very, very useful information.
Yeah. Okay. Why no movement for EB3 India final action dates? When will it move to February 2014?
Why no movement? I would say it's most likely because of the filing numbers. So I don't know those off the top of my head, but I'm sure many of you tech people can do this faster and better than I can. If you pull the information for how many perm cases were processed by the Department of Labor in 2014 for India, if you pull those numbers, it's going to be in the hundreds of thousands probably. So that's the reason. That's the bottleneck, right? It doesn't really matter what's happening on the ground right this second. What matters is what was happening on the ground at the date that you're looking at for the priority dates in the visa bulletin. And 2014, 2015, I think those were years when perm processing was in the top speed for a lot of tech companies, and that's where the bottleneck comes from.
Okay. I'm on F1 OPT through July 2026. Have 2 years of 2+ years to extend my STEM OPT. My boyfriend is green card holder since June 2023. We want to get married to extend my stay. How does it help me? Please help.
Okay. Let me quickly look at the April visa bulletin
I
for
can share.
because what we want to look at is the family dates here.
Here. So final action dates for family.
Yes, we can look at final action dates and we can look at filing dates. Oh, filing dates are going to be current for April. So this is great, even for India. All countries are current for F2A. F2A is the family-based category for the spouses of green card holders. So if you're currently on OPT and your boyfriend has a green card, um, assuming India, just because we have a lot of audience from India, but regardless, because all countries are current now, what that means is if you get married now and get your filing ready in April, you can file the I-130 and the adjustment of status concurrently, everything in April. And that means that your green card process already begins in April. And also, as a result of that, you can get an unrestricted work permit. So if you are planning to get married and you want to get to a green card, I know this is a rush thing to do to get all of this done in a month, and it's not the most romantic thing if you wanted to plan like a big ceremony and all of those things. But my recommendation would be, sign the papers now, get everything done, and then later you can have the big celebration with family and relatives and do a more like the traditional ceremony. But for now, the main benefit for you would be that you would get the green card process started right away, and then you would get an unrestricted work permit from there, so that you don't have to be stuck with just the STEM OPT qualified employers, but you would be able to work for anybody, including working with your own startup, having side projects, doing contract work, anything you want to do essentially.
In her case, it looks like she does have 2+ years of STEM OPT extension. So potentially she has time if she still wants to do, grand ceremony, etc. So, because I am assuming if it's current right now, like it won't go that far with the 2 years, the thing that she does have.
Yeah, the risk there is that there might be a retrogression, because for several years there was a backlog. So I've done many cases for green card holders from India where we had to file the I-130 first and then wait several
Mm,
months or even longer before they could even proceed with the adjustment of status. So you're there is a risk, right? Like, because we can't know for
yeah,
sure
yeah,
what's going to
makes
happen, what's going to be in the visa bulletin in a year from now. The safest thing to do would be to file now. That means you'd have to
right.
get married and then file now, because that would protect you.
You just
Um,
don't want her to have nice ceremony. That's it.
yeah, that's it. I just really don't want you to have a good time. I just want to
No.
ruin all your plans with family and all that. No, that's not my
But,
job. It's not to ruin your life, even though it sometimes feels like that. But
what?
it's
Sorry,
it's
Henry.
possible it'll be current for a while. But my gut feeling is that because it's current now, there's going to be a lot of filings, and when there's a lot of filings, then there's going to be retrogression after.
Yeah. Henry, does manifest help if in such cases?
Yes, absolutely. So if you wanted to talk to us, the UD has the link. Have a consultation with us. We can talk through the timelines and go into details, answer all your questions more specifically, and then you can decide if this is something that you would want to consider now, or if you're okay waiting.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. If I'm starting my if I start building my EB1A profile today, what are the top three things I should focus on to strengthen my case?
Okay. Talking big picture here, because specific profiles require different approaches, but sort of big picture strategies. Number one, look at people in your area of expertise who've already quote unquote made it, and look at their profiles, what it looks like. What do they have there, right? If you're looking at somebody who's on like a VP or the director level position in a tech company, for example, a lot of the times you're going to see that they are doing a lot of things outside of the office. They often are in some advisory roles. Maybe they are on some kind of board for a nonprofit. They are doing things that are not just related to their work.
Mm,
So look at other people who've already gotten to the level where you want to be, and see what stands out in their profiles, and then aim to get to those things as well. Number two, get out of the office as much as you can. building a profile is not about just running through checklists to get some hackathons or peer reviewed judging. What you really need is, for the final merits, you need national acclaim, and that's a fancy legal term for who else knows that you even exist. You should be able to show to USCIS that among your peers in the same field or industry, other people know that you are really good at what you do, that you have some level of recognition or reputation in the field. And the best way to do that is get out of your comfort zone and start doing anything you can that is outside of your 9 to 5 job. That means go to meetups, do some mentorships, talk to people on online and see if there's anything you can do to help others who are just getting started. Try to find some podcasts from your friends and
Come to my
stuff
podcast.
where yeah, go to podcast and talk about your career. Even if it doesn't qualify as major media, it is still helpful for final merits to show that, like, hey, if you're cool enough that Yuri wants to invite you to a podcast, you must be good at what you do, right? So those are the kind of things that you wanna build for. And then I guess number 3 would be just be amazing at what you do, right? Because if you're really good at what you do, people will invite you to things and want to work with you, and that's going to help your case. And then, last thing, save everything. If you're switching job, like
Mhm.
if I had a time machine, I would just say to people, just do a really good job, and every single time somebody says, hey, shout out to Vikrant today for helping us with the project, just screenshot it, print it, whatever, save it in your folder,
That's very
because that's
true.
because it's a number one issue with people in the industry profiles. Is like, oh yeah, I did something 5 years ago, but I don't really have proof. Start thinking about that. Every time somebody says you did a good job, save that somehow, put it in your folder.
That's also very helpful for promotions, because sometimes I would do something like first quarter of the month, and then when the time comes for the performance review at the end of the year, I forget like what I've done in the first quarter. So this practice not only help with EB1 but also for promotions. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So any project you're doing a good job at, save that information. It'll help you internally. It'll help you with immigration. And if you follow these organic profile building steps, usually more often than not, you see that it actually starts helping your real career as well. So working on an EB1 case the right way will actually lead you to better career opportunities as well.
Yeah. And Vikrant and everybody else, again, if you are interested, just reach out to me. I can help you connect with like Manifest. We have like another extraordinary club and community, and it's free for you to join. So happy to have you like guys join that. Cool. Received a 1099 NEC for my CPT approved internship last year. Is this normal? If not, what should be my next steps? It looks like it's a tax filing thing. Instead of W-2, they receive 1099 non-employee compensation form. They just need to file the taxes, I'm assuming. They are worried that they didn't get W-2 instead of.
Interesting. That doesn't sound right to me, honestly. I'm not a tax expert, so don't take tax. I'm not giving anybody tax advice, but the general rule for somebody who is on F1 is that they are not subject to the social security and Medicare taxes, right? So that means like the employer doesn't have to pay some of the taxes, but they should still be withholding income tax and paying that to the IRS from every paycheck you get. So
Right.
if they're issuing a 1099, it seems to me like they are saying that you weren't even an employee, you were a contractor,
Mm.
and that sounds not right to me. So I don't know.
If
I would
they were
definitely.
really, if they were really a full-time employee, then maybe they could request a W-2 instead of 1099.
Yeah.
Again, we don't know their situation yet, but
But I would reach out to the school DSO right away and ask them, is this something that they're seeing from their other students? Because that doesn't sound like the right form to me. I think it should be a W-2 that you're getting.
yeah, yeah. Okay. First time H1B stamping, change of status from F1 to H1. Appointment got rescheduled. Currently in India, an apartment lease in US ended. Will the stay at different address on returning? Any changes? DS
DS
160.
160. Yeah. Yes, I would say you should do a new DS-160 with the updated address on it. There should be a way for you to put that DS-160 confirmation number into the portal, where the scheduling gets, where you see this calendar and availability. Um, because you presumably have a long wait time before the interview, having a new DS-160 should be okay, because generally what they don't want is for you to have a new DS-160 submitted only a few days before the interview, because then they say that the officer doesn't have time to actually review it. But if you're waiting for the interview from, for several months, then I would just redo the DS-160 now and put a different address on it.
Okay. Um, on STEM OPT with a pending H1B filed July 2025 consular processing, can I travel to India for a marriage and re-enter US safely, marrying a US citizen? Ooh, interesting.
Um, okay, let's see. Okay,
They are all,
number one, um, you you filed for consular processing, but the case was filed before the 100K fee proclamation became effective. So that means you are not subject to the 100K fee, even if you did go through an H1B file application process. But that doesn't say that you're guaranteed to get through the system smoothly, because they might, somebody in the process who is looking at your case, let's say at the embassy or on the border, might think that the 100K fee applies to you when it really doesn't. So that's number one risk. Number two, you're traveling for marriage and then you're marrying a US citizen. The question is, how are you re-entering? Because you're marrying the
on
US
STEM OPT,
citizen.
right? She's on F1 STEM OPT. She hasn't done change of status. She has done H1B consular processing. So I'm assuming with a pending H1B. Wait,
So that means I'm hoping you have an F1 visa in your passport, because if you want to re-enter on STEM OPT,
yeah.
then I don't see a problem with that. But you need to have all your documents, right? Like, you're not going to be able to come back in with just the I-20. You're going to need the F1 visa in your passport. You're going to need an I-20, and then you should have proof of your current job on the STEM OPT. So I always recommend people to not just have the I-20, but also have a letter from the employer confirming that they are working on the OPT job, and then also some recent pay stubs, because then you can prove that you didn't recently get laid off, but you're coming back in to resume the work. That's all legitimate. Um,
But
the fact
Ritu,
that
can you confirm that you do have like an active F1 stamp and you're gonna come back on F1? I'm assuming that is the case, but again, we are making an assumption right now.
Yeah, um,
So let's
and
wait for
then
her to respond and then we can pick it up.
okay.
Yeah. Unless you wanted to add anything else. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I mean, with the marriage, there's just the case that if you are entering on an F1, then you should make sure that you're not rushing too fast to, let's say, file a marriage-based case, because you don't want to trigger any issues with the immigrant intent. So I wouldn't enter on an F1 visa and then 2 weeks later apply for adjustment of status based on marriage to a US citizen. So you want to leave a gap there for hopefully that 90 days or more, before you rush to file an AOS.
Yeah, so my STEM OPT ends July 2027. So I'm assuming she's
Okay.
gonna.
Okay, that means we're assuming you're entering with an F1 visa. So yeah, I think that sounds fine, because you're not subject to the 100K fee. So I don't think they're gonna be pushing back on thinking that you're trying to like sneak by or something like that. So I think you're gonna be okay, but just make sure you have proof of your OPT job, like I just said earlier.
Yeah. Okay, my Amazon role is data center engineering operations with my electrical engineering bachelor's and data science master's. Am I eligible for H1B, and which degree should be used for the case?
Um, I would say, just from the superficial level of what I'm seeing here, my first instinct would be to base the job more on the electrical engineering degree. But if I was your attorney and I was doing the case for you, preparing all the documents, then what I would do is I would ask for a detailed job description from HR, and I would read through all of the bullet points of what are your job duties. And then if it seems to me that the data center engineering operations does include considerable sort of data-driven decision making and analysis of how to improve the processes, then maybe you can also tie it to the master's in data science. Just from seeing, okay, data science, data center, and then electrical engineering, that seems to me to be a more closer match. But it really depends on the specific job duties and, for example, what is on the transcripts for your data science degree. So that is the process that goes through inside a law firm when somebody's applying, and then we would decide on that. So if you're not sure, set up a consultation. We can take a look. We'd want to see not just an offer letter from Amazon, but the actual job description, maybe from the job ad that you applied for, or just ask from HR a summary of the official job description. And then we can do a consultation, take a look at your transcripts for both degrees, and figure out what's the best match.
Yeah. Do you have expected number of applicants for this H1B lottery?
Oh, I
Do you think it will
mean,
be lower than last year
I
because of 100K?
I do think it's going to be lower because I from our internal process right now, I can tell you that we've got basically nobody who's asking for a registration for a person that's outside of the United States. So this could be a record-breaking year in the sense that you could have a much higher percentage of people winning simply who are already on OPT, right? Like
Mm.
last year, a very common concern on online Reddit everywhere was somebody saying, "I'm going on my third lottery and I didn't win." And I think this year there's just going to be no competition from abroad. The people who are currently here on different statuses, I think you're going to have a much bigger chance of winning, even if you're just making a level 1 wage, right? And then you're getting lower entries on the lotteries. But especially for people who are in tech making a decent level wage, like level 3 or 4, higher ones, I think the odds are going to be really good, because I really don't think there's going to be as many applications as last year. I would say it's probably going to be lower. I just don't know how much lower. But if I had to put a number on it and see what happens, I'd say 200,000.
Yeah. Is that like 50% less than last
Yeah,
time?
like last year, I think it was 400K.
Yeah. Okay. I've applied for initial OPT and got notice of intent to deny, saying my LinkedIn employment dates are wrong, but I have just done a valid summer internship using CPT, but forgot to update LinkedIn. How should I respond? Wow, like LinkedIn, they look at LinkedIn. I didn't realize that.
That's really surprising. I mean, I have seen all sorts of weird NOIDs and RFEs where USCIS is saying, "Hey, if your accomplishments were so amazing, why are they not on your resume, or why are they not on your LinkedIn?" So I do say nowadays to people, like, before submitting any applications, make sure that LinkedIn profile is up to date, make sure CV or resume is updated, things like that. Honestly, I mean, there's nothing else you can do here except just explain honestly what is the discrepancy, right? So if you are saying, "I didn't update LinkedIn," um, I don't know if there's anything in the profile that shows when's the last time you made an edit. If there was, then I would screenshot that. But off the top of my head, I don't think it shows me when is the last time I updated my profile.
No, it does. No.
But you could maybe just show your LinkedIn profile, then show an older version of your CV that matches with the LinkedIn, and then show a newer version of your LinkedIn and your CV, and say, this is a simple explanation. Like, there's no requirement for me to update LinkedIn as soon as I get a new job. Most people update LinkedIn when they're done with the job and they start looking for a new one, right? Because while you're busy doing your day-to-day job and you're not worried about applying for the next one, then you kind of forget about the LinkedIn, and that's the explanation there. There's nothing else you can really say, but just explain to them that I didn't update LinkedIn because I didn't think that was important. This is not. There's no legal requirement for my LinkedIn to be up to date on what I'm doing right now.
So it's interesting they didn't do RFE, instead they did Noid. Is that like surprising to you, or?
It is a little bit surprising. I mean, for most of my career, me or my colleagues never saw an NOID because the general idea behind the NOID used to be that if USCIS sends you an NOID, they are saying this case is so bad it shouldn't have even been filed. But if there was just some discrepancy or missing information, it would just be an RFE.
Yeah.
In my opinion, this is a sort of strategic thing nowadays from USCIS that they send an NOID because you have just less time. With an RFE, they give you 12 weeks to respond. With an NOID, it's 33 days. So you have a lot less time to actually reply. But I'm wondering if there's anything else in the NOID that they are asking about. If it's literally just about the employment dates, then that's a very strange reason for issuing an NOID for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Um, on STEM OPT, working at a university, can a consultancy also file CAP subject H1B? If selected, can I keep my university job? What are the approval chances?
Let's see. Working at a university on OPT, CAP subject. I mean, if you are still going to be on OPT and the university doesn't do a Cap-Exempt H1B for you, then the only way you can work for that consultancy is if they put you into a lottery and then get you a cap subject H1B. They cannot do a concurrent H1B and then you maintain your OPT, right? So that's the key thing there, that if they put you into the lottery and then you get a cap subject H1B, then you have to pick, are you going to stay on OPT or switch to H1B? If you switch to H1B to work for the consultancy, the only way you can keep the university job is if they do a concurrent H1B from the university side. So that is really a question of what's the order of the filings here, right? Because that's going to be the key. You can have the university switch you from STEM OPT to Cap-Exempt H1B, and then you could have the consultancy do a concurrent H1B, or you can have the consultancy be the first one, assuming you win the lottery and get a cap subject H1B, and then the university can do a concurrent H1B based on you having the first one with the consultancy. So it's totally doable. But approval chances, I mean, I can't tell you what the approval chances are if I don't even know which one is filed first. There's like too many options here. There's like a if this then that
There's a
sort of
matrix. Yeah, yeah.
three of hypotheticals right now. So it depends on whether you're looking at approval chances for the lottery first, or if it's going to be cap exempt, or what's even being filed. But if you want to explore that further, I would recommend the consultation, and then we
Yeah.
could take a look at specific details of the jobs, hours, your degrees, all of those things, and we can figure that out.
Yeah. Okay. I'm on my STEM currently. I got approved, but my card did not deliver. I reapplied it last week. My question is, can I work before I receive my physical card, as I already have standalone approval?
Interesting. So technically, you have work authorization and you can do it, but from the company's perspective, they need
Yeah.
the card to do the I-9 compliance stuff. So um, if the company accepts that risk, then later after the fact it would be okay, but the company is the one that would be in trouble basically, because if they're required to do I-9 within 3 days of you starting work, and if I remember correctly, on the instructions for I-9, an approval notice for OPT, STEM OPT, is not one of the documents that they can look to verify your authorization. They need the actual EAD card, and you don't have that yet.
Mm, okay. One of my friend has applied for premium STEM OPT through employer A. Can he join employer B now during the premium process? Will they now be taking employer B for STEM approval? Will there be an issue?
This is the same one, like one of the first questions we had. Somebody was in the middle of an RFE.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't risk it. I mean, after the fact, when they already got an RFE in the first one, there's nothing I can do about it. But if you are here asking me what is the safest way to proceed, anything you change like this suddenly, you're looking for trouble, because I don't know, like, you would have to make those changes. It has to be an e-verify employer. Is there a requirement for you to notify the DSO about the change? You know, you did premium, which means that you're gonna get a result on employer A very soon. So is it really not possible for you to wait 2 weeks and then do the job switch, right? Like I know everybody's always stressed because an employer wants you to start ASAP, but really, if it's at all possible, just don't risk it. Wait for the result first and then do the switch.
Yeah. Okay. Um, I applied for my STEM. As my STEM application still pending with USCIS, I got other job. Will there be any problem? Will there be any chance of STEM OPT denial?
Same thing as the last one, basically. My opinion is, don't rock the boat unless it's absolutely necessary. So if it's still pending, wait for the result. Consider upgrading to premium if it hasn't already been filed with premium, and then switch when you have an approval. Every year there's a lot of people who miss out on OPT and STEM OPT just because they do something wrong and then they get a denial, right? Like it's a use it or lose it. If you get
Yeah.
a denial, then you don't have time to reapply anymore because you're already going to be expired from the OPT. So you're risking 2 years of potential work authorization just because you don't want to wait a couple of weeks, right? Like it's just in my opinion, the risk benefit analysis here is like, it's too risky. Just
Yeah.
upgrade to premium, get a result, and then switch
Then both.
when you
Yeah.
have an approval.
Yeah. Okay. Last couple questions. I applied for OPT on 18th December 2025. I got RFE on 9th February for a biometric in between. I changed the address and updated on file. Does change address while pending application a problem?
No, I don't think changing an address while the application is pending is an issue. It's just good thing that you did it, because you have the deadline for when you have to update USCIS whenever you move. So I think this is fine. The only way I could see there being some kind of an issue is if your new address is in a completely different state, then they might send you another one for new biometrics, even though they should be using the biometrics in the location where you did it, and their systems are getting better. But occasionally I see mismatches where you do biometrics in one location and then somehow the data doesn't end up in your file, and then you have to go through a different field office. So if you moved states and you're now in a completely different location, they might ask you to do the biometrics in the new state.
Yeah. Okay. Company filed Chapter 7, last day February 13th. No pay stub. Last pay stub was January 30th. H1B period, grace period, does it start from January 30th or February 13th? W2 lower than LCA due to unpaid wages, tax USCIS issues.
Um, I think there's definitely a possibility of USCIS pushing back. So if at all, if I could, I would operate under the assumption that the grace period started from January 30th, just to be on the safe side, to minimize risks of denial. That being said, legally, I think your grace period starts February 13, because the law says your grace period starts after the last day of work, not when you got paid. But the problem is proving to USCIS that there was actual work, even if you haven't been paid for it yet. So if you have a letter of termination that says that your last day is going to be February 13. That will be useful evidence in the future if USCIS asks for, proof of maintenance of status or issues an RFE about this or anything like that. And then unpaid wages issue, I would even consider submitting a complaint to the Department of Labor, just to show that you have actually raised the issue that, hey, I worked and I haven't been paid for it. Just because you want to show USCIS that you truly did do the work until February 13 and you did everything you were supposed to do. Not that you should be penalized as being out of status 2 weeks earlier just because of the company issues, right? So there's the wage and hour division at the Department of Labor where you can submit complaints, and I would say submit a complaint there saying that company went bankrupt and they haven't paid you for the time that's required under the LCA. And then if USCIS in the future asks you for evidence for proof of maintenance of status, you can show them, hey, here's the termination letter that says February 13. Here's me complaining to the Department of Labor saying I haven't been paid. Therefore, I have done everything I could. And that'll maximize your chances that you can get through with no issues.
Okay. Do you have time for one last question?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. H1B ended X company January 9th, joined Y company February, normal processing, receipt received, started working, 2 pay stubs. Now X company wants me back via premium processing, no response, 3 days. Is there an RFE risk?
No response, 3 days. I don't understand that part.
Yeah, I'm assuming, Srini, do you mean like it's been 3 days and he hasn't yet gotten the response? Or 3?
Because in this situation, what I would want to do is get an approval for the company Y petition first. Because if the bridge petition between the two ends up denied, you're going to have an issue with maintenance of status, and you might not be qualified anymore for getting the old job back with company X. So I don't know what's already been filed. It's not clear to me from these details what's already in this in the system. Did company X already file a new change of employer, or aka H1B transfer, or are they still talking about wanting you back?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll wait for that. One last question. Sorry, Henry.
No problem. Let's keep going.
I have been impacted with layoffs. Applying for applying for F1 to wife, currently on H4. However, we received RFE for more documents, which I'm submitting today. My 60 grace period is ending soon in 2 weeks. I'm not sure.
If you already applied, then you don't need to worry about the grace period anymore, because there's already a pending application that provides you with authorized stay. So if your grace period is ending in 2 weeks, I'm assuming your application that you submitted was already inside those 60 days, so you should be fine. The only risk is if there's a denial for some reason, like they say you haven't proven home ties or ability to pay for the school or whatever, stuff like that. But if you already applied for the change of status to F1 before the grace period ended, you've done everything you could. So now it's just a matter of USCIS processing the change of status.
Okay. I applied for an H1B transfer, but received an RFE to provide detailed duties to determine SOC code. Do I need to worry about that?
I mean, you always somewhat need to worry about an RFE because it means like they're not approving your case yet. The question here is going to be really about the details that I don't know what's your case about, right? Like if it's a very straightforward SOC code for software developer and you have a computer science degree and you're it's a software engineering job, then that's a very simple thing where you can put two and two together. Sometimes there's some weird stuff where you kind of have a hybrid role of business slash tech and things like that. And when they say duties are very generic, that's my best guess would be it's because you guys chat GPT the job duties, right? Like you're maybe it's a small company and they needed to give the lawyer something, and then they just put chat GPT, give me some job duties for this role, because the company doesn't really have a big HR department to prepare the official job description. And so now what you need to do is you need to take those same job duties that you already put in there, and then as sub bullet points under each of those generic duties, you have to go into more detail. You don't want to completely change the job duties into something new, because they're going to say, well, now you're changing the job in the middle of the case, and that's not okay. You need to explain how you're not making a change, you're just adding more details to the stuff that you already submitted, right? So it's a fine line between those two, but that's how it needs to be presented in the RFE response, that it's like, hey, you asked for more details, I'm giving you more details, I'm not changing the job itself.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, last question. I've lost all three chances of my H1B. My stamp expires on July 2026. So I'm thinking of considering to pursue day one CPT. Would you seriously recommend it? Do you think big players, employers would accept it?
I think using CPT is totally fine. The number one thing that you have to be careful about is what is the university that is offering it, because there are some that are considered like sketchy or fraudulent programs. And I don't do CPT stuff myself, so I don't know off the top of my head what are those universities that are reputable. But I do have a former client that I was working on their NIW for, and they were working at Amazon, and they said all of their colleagues at Amazon were
Yeah.
using the same university for CPT. So if you can just go and ask one of your friends or colleagues what they are using, that's the safest way to pick the CPT university. And I don't know about the other companies, but from this one client I heard of, that was a very common thing inside Amazon, that if people were running out of OPT, they were switching to CPT, and Amazon seemed to be fine with it. So, if they want to keep you on payroll and they like your work, then they're going to be accepting of it. But of course, different companies might have different policies. So, but absolutely, the big thing when you are in the CPT, document everything you're doing, because every single case I've seen where there's a change of status from F1 to something else later, if there was a CPT in the past, USCIS will RFE and ask for proof of maintenance of status. They're going to want to know, show us evidence that your job was related to the major, and that means that you have to show what was the CPT program, show us your homework or whatever projects you did, and then show us detailed descriptions of your job duties, what you did during the CPT job. So document everything now, so that later, if you do get an RFE like that, it could be 3 years later or 5 years later, if you don't, if you're still in the US and you keep filing new cases. So you want to keep that file in case you need it.
Yeah. It sounds like she's asking, my F1 expires July 2027. Should have renew my visa immediately after accepting the admit. Can they renew even year before?
I don't know that they're going to allow you to go for another stamping if you have more than a year left on your current visa.
Yeah.
Unlikely, unless there's some good reason for this. But I think the general rule is that you'd only be applying for that if you have something like 6 months left, or that's usually the rule of thumb. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but
Yeah.
you might want to start submitting a DS-160 though, because if you're renewing stamping in India, you might get an interview date in summer of 2027 if you apply now, right? So get it in
Right.
there.
Yeah. Once she gets an admit, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Henry. This was so much fun. I'm so glad that we did this. I can't wait to bring you back. And I know Ritu and there are a bunch of other people who have questions. I'm going to post the link again in the description. Feel free to schedule your call. And then especially if you are on O1 or EB1A talent visa path, or even if you just want to see if your profile is eligible or not, just use the same link and get it evaluated for free, and also 30-minute call with the lawyer. But Henry, thank you so much. This was a pleasure. I can't wait to bring you back. Thanks everybody. We will
Yeah,
see you
thanks so
guys.
much for having me. It was a fun one. Just one final plug, if I could. Yudi
Yeah.
mentioned it earlier. We have this thing called the Extraordinary Ability Club. It's free to join the club, and it's basically meant for people who are aspiring to get to that EB1 or O1 level. And I'm super excited about it because we are building online courses for free to teach people how to basically get to that point, right? So if you're wondering how do I get there, what do I need to do, join that club. We're going to have attorneys in there, we're going to have consultants in there helping people do profile building stuff and improve their profiles. We're going to have training content so that you can actually learn about what you need to do and all of that. I think it's going to be a really, really cool thing. A lot of work in progress, but great promise. And we have a fantastic team working on it. So check it out if you can, and contact us if you want to know more.
Yeah, I am part of the team, so I know behind the scenes. So
Okay.
yes,
Awesome.
yes, please. I will let them know. Link is all already in the description, etc. So they will obviously know. But
Awesome.
again, Henry,
Thanks so
thank you.
much. Hopefully I'll be back here soon if Yudi will have me, and then we'll talk more. Have a good
Yeah,
one.
only for that answer that you didn't wanted her to marry with the full salary.
Yeah, that's just
Right.
ruining your plans. I know.
Right. Henry, just stay for like few seconds. I'll end the stream. I just want to make sure everything gets uploaded. And then, but everybody else, thank you so much. We'll see you guys next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, in California, 10 a.m. And if you are from India, then 10 or 10:30 p.m. IST.